guys, welcome back to IELTS with Juva. In this lesson, I show you a Band 9 sample answer for a bar chart in IELTS Writing Task 1. The bar chart is about extreme sports. I will give you many tips to help you boost your band score. Let's get started! By the way, if you want to get your dream IELTS band score, check out my IELTS materials. Here you can find templates, courses, sample answers, and much more to really boost your score. To access the materials, click on the link in the description. Also, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss the next video. Lots of students have a hard time with IELTS Writing Task 1. You're given a question prompt and visual material that you have to summarize. It's sometimes hard to know where to start. First, let's look at the question. The graph shows the result of a survey of 2,000 American adults regarding their interest in taking part in selected extreme sports. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, making comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. Like I said, all of that can be overwhelming, but let's go one step at a time, beginning with the prompt. There is always a statement or two describing the chart. In this question, it's one sentence. The graph below shows the result of a survey of 2,000 American adults regarding their interest in taking part in selected extreme sports. I know that I must paraphrase this for a good response. I first read it so I know what the chart is about, but I don't take notes. It may seem odd that I don't take notes, but all of the information is in front of me. I use a template and fill in the details as I need to. Templates are amazing because they really boost your IELTS writing band score. They help you structure your response and give you great vocabulary. I have written templates for all the IELTS writing tasks. You can find them in this course. Now that I know what the topic is, the interest people have in extreme sports, I then move on to the next part. This is the question itself. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features, making comparisons where relevant. Now, this is really important because 25% of your band score is based on answering the question. This prompt says, summarize the information. In other words, I don't make guesses about why the trends in the graph happen. I just have to describe what I see and compare the main features. Here's the last line of the prompt. Write at least 150 words. Be careful here. Some people get nervous and think that 150 is a maximum number and they write less. Do not do this. At least 150 means 150 or more. I find that about 200 words is adequate for IELTS Writing Task 1. If I write too many, I don't have enough time for Task 2. I then take time to look at the graph before writing. I can see that on the left side are percentages and that each bar is divided into 4 different opinions that the people give. All of the opinions add up to 100%, which is the total number of people in this survey. Now, this graph is a bit interesting because it doesn't have years or changes over time like most IELTS tasks do. So that means I can't write about an increase or decrease over time. What I do first is look for general ideas that are similar and also points that are very different. As for similar, none of the columns has a large number of people who tried the sport, though the have tried are different. Actually, most similar is the not sure, but that's not a very interesting category to write about. It's better to look at definite yes and definite no. The no shows me a column that is very different from the others. Hot air ballooning. I wonder why. However, I do not offer a guess at the reason in my response because that's not answering the question. Actually, the hot air ballooning column is interesting for another reason too. Even though lots of people say they want to try, only a few have. You know, that would make an interesting angle for my response. That's enough for me to get started. I begin with a phrase from my template. This bar graph describes. This bar graph describes the interest expressed by adults in the United States towards participating in certain extreme sports. Do you notice that I indent the introduction? Many people start writing and don't use a good structure for the paragraphs. I always make sure the introduction, body, and conclusion are distinct. In the introduction, I paraphrase the main idea of the graph. I make sure to use the correct term, bar graph. You can also use bar chart if you like. Then I change the grammatical structure as well as a few words. Taking part becomes participating, regarding turns to towards, and selected becomes certain. In IELTS Writing Task 1, it's important that you paraphrase because this shows the IELTS examiner that you have a large vocabulary. This will really improve your band score. Now, I don't have to change every last word. If I do, then the meaning might change. I could say dangerous activities, but it doesn't have quite the precise meaning. It's better to use the same words if you are unsure about an accurate paraphrase. My next sentence summarizes the main trends in the graph. It gives an overview. Don't give specific details such as numbers in the overview. Just describe the main trends you see. Like I said, I can't use ideas related to changing over time. So I use for the most part, but to show the main idea that I see. Here's my sentence. For the most part, people have not taken part in such activities, but the desire to try varies considerably. I show two contrasting ideas from the graph, something that is similar and something that is different. Desire to try is an awesome phrase because it includes wanting to try and not wanting to try. That way, I don't have to go into a lot of detail in the introduction about levels of wanting to try. I also use the words varies considerably to show off my vocabulary and grammar skills. Make sure that you use a lot of different vocabulary in Task 1 because this will help you get a high band score. A verb needs to be modified by an adverb. Therefore, I turn considerable, which means a lot, into considerably by adding ly. That's an awesome sentence. That's enough for the introduction. So on to the body paragraph. I start with describing the graph in more detail. The graph summarizes opinions about 5 sports: bungee jumping, windsurfing, hot air ballooning, rock climbing, and whitewater rafting. My template has suggestions for many verbs to replace describes. Summarizes is one of those. I list the sports so that a reader who does not see the chart knows what is on it. I try to imagine that I'm explaining the chart to a friend because that makes it easier for me to give the important points. Do you notice that I use a colon in this first sentence? That's another complex sentence structure to show off my grammar and keep the language concise. Remember that correct punctuation improves your band score because it shows the examiner that you have great language skills. The trick with a colon is that the part in front has to be a complete sentence. The graph summarizes opinions about 5 sports can stand on its own. Therefore, I can follow it with a column and a list of the 5 sports. Then I give details about the trends. I go in the same order as in the introduction. By the way, if you want to get your dream IELTS band score, check out my IELTS materials. Here you can find templates, courses, sample answers, and much more to really boost your score. To access the materials, click on the link in the description. Also, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss the next video. Remember, my first claim was, for the most part, people have not taken part in such activities. Here's more detail about that. Numbers of adults who have actually done the selected sports vary from only about 10% of the population for bungee jumping and windsurfing to just over 20% for whitewater rafting. In other words, far less than a fourth of the population has tried an extreme sport. Okay, that's a long sentence. I decided to write the percentages first. I don't need to list every fact for every bar on the graph, since I'm only describing major trends. Therefore, I give the lowest and highest to form a range. Now the reader knows that the participation ranges from 10 to 20%. Someone might think that is a large range, which would weaken my point. I decided to accentuate it by pointing out that all of them are similar because they are all less than 1/4 of the population. In other words, it's an awesome linking phrase to show that these ideas are actually paraphrasing each other. I've made a range of numbers into a similar group by highlighting how they relate. I also used a semicolon for more variety in grammar. A semicolon is a great way to join two very similar ideas. In this case, it emphasizes the similarity in the numbers. Let's go on with the next sentence. For each sport shown, furthermore, the percentage who say they would like to try is fairly similar to the percentage who have done so. I decided to use furthermore, another awesome linking word from my template. It shows that I'm continuing the idea of a similarity in the data. Most of the time, people put linking words at the start of a sentence. I decided to vary my grammar by placing it before the subject of the sentence, the percentage. Don't forget to use linking words in your IELTS answer because they really boost your band score. Now you may wonder why I write fairly similar. Obviously, this sentence is true for rock climbing, whitewater rafting, and bungee jumping. But what about windsurfing? The percentage of people who say they would like to try is not quite similar to the percentage who have done so. But it's close enough to be fairly. Remember that you must summarize important points from the chart. You don't have to report every detail accurately. You might notice that I'm not giving exact numbers for each of these claims. I don't have to. Fairly similar is accurate enough to visualize. The other reason I bring up this point about want to try is because there is one sport that is very different. I mentioned that in the next sentence. A notable exception is hot air ballooning, which almost 40% of the respondents said they want to do. A notable exception is another linking phrase to show the reader that the following is going to be extremely different from what I have said so far. I give the fact almost 40% to stress how different this detail is. The reader now knows that none of the other columns were even close to being 40%. I want to add another trend about the bars, so I move on to the next group. Interestingly, very few people are ambivalent about the 5 sports. I used interestingly to show I think the point is fascinating. It's true. I would think that more people couldn't decide whether they wanted to try or not. Ambivalent is an awesome way to paraphrase the category not sure. I'm showing off my vocabulary here. However, the reader might not know exactly what I mean, so I'm going to clarify in the next sentence. A mere 10% or less say that they are not sure about whether they want to participate or not. I have already said that there are not many people who can't make up their minds. I stressed that point using mere. That's another great word from my template. Use words like this to point out whether the number is high or low. This helps you give a precise answer with a large vocabulary, which will make your band score go up. Meanwhile, I use not sure in quotes. I added those quote marks to indicate it's exactly the phrase from the graph. It clarifies what I meant by ambivalent and demonstrates a great control of punctuation. Whether blah 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 or not is also a good sentence structure to show a comparison without adding a lot of other sentences. Now I have described 3 of the different sections of the bar chart. There is one more I haven't discussed. No interest. I don't worry about it because I've described the main trends and the reader can guess that the remaining people have no interest. I can stop here. However, I added a conclusion to show I know the basic structure for a formal answer. Looking at the graph, it is clear that most adults in the United States have not participated in extreme sports, and though some express an interest in trying, the majority does not want to do such activities. This conclusion is only one sentence, but it summarizes the main discussion. Looking at the graph, it is clear that it's a sentence starter from my template to show that I've moved on to the conclusion. Here's the 2 main ideas I talked about. One is most adults in the United States have not participated in extreme sports. I made sure to include the term extreme sports because it's the main topic of the graph. The second idea is some express an interest in trying, but I already said that the number is not that large for anything except hot air ballooning. Therefore, I use though to show that the following happens despite this small number of people who want to try. That final idea is that the majority does not want to do such activities. Now I have stated that point, which I didn't really say in the body of the response. The majority is an awesome way to say most people. Even though it refers to lots of people, it's singular because it's one group, so das is singular too. Such activities is a nice way to use different words, rather than say extreme sports again in the same sentence. That's it for the writing, but I always take time to proofread. It's really important to search for grammatical and spelling errors. I also make sure the trends I describe make sense and are joined with good linking words. This way, I make sure that I don't create a list of ideas without showing how they are related to each other. These are essential steps for a high IELTS writing band score. That's it. That's how to write an answer for a bar chart question that gets you a band 9 in IELTS Writing Task 1. By the way, if you want to get your dream IELTS band score, check out my IELTS materials. Here you can find templates, courses, sample answers, and much more to really boost your score. To access the materials, click on the link in the description. Also, hit the like button and subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss the next video.